Well, good morning, universe, and welcome to my corner of it. Oh, it's nice to have the evenings and the not to be quite so hot as they were. Sleeping a little bit better, although I'm still keeping the fan on at night, which has been kind of something about the air just blowing has been really, really, really nice. And so today is Monday. And although it was very sunny when I got up, it's now looking a little overcast. It might actually rain today. That could be nice. Certainly could use the rain. Not nearly enough of it. I love this stuff. This is Tisserand Happy. So I just use it on my nails first thing in the morning. Or I try to. Just warm it up a little. It smells wonderful. So today I was looking through the some of the earlier embroidered flowers I made. And I was looking at these little blue ones, and although I've done all of them with a little bit of a running stitch along the edge, I just don't think that they popped enough. So we're going to go back and add a little something to all of them. Oh, there we go. So this is how they look. And all I've done is just a little tiny running stitch along the edge all the way around. And then I tried to just add a little bit of extra interest on them as well. So I'm doing a little 3-2-1 pattern. 3, 2, and then 1. It's going to be a little tricky because these have already been put together. I would normally just do the pattern on each petal before I put it together, but never mind. So it's a little more fussy because of course the thread wants to get into all of the other petals, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, but there you go. But I think it just makes it just that little bit prettier. So it's the start of a new week, and August is always an interesting month for my family. My birthday's in August, and actually 3 people in my family have the same birthday, several years apart, starting with my great-grandfather on my mother's side, and as I understand it, he was a shop owner during the Depression, and then either had or had a farm up in Michigan after the Depression. And my mom tells the story of how they all used to, when they'd go up to visit, they'd be told to go out and pick fruit, blueberries or something. And of course, they'd all come home with few blueberries and having eaten them all. And I have been blueberry picking, not on the farm, because it's one of those funny things is I keep thinking I've seen the farm in my mind. And I do remember extremely briefly my great-grandmother. I don't remember my great-grandfather. I think he passed well before I was born. But I have a lovely picture of me and my grandma and my great-grandma sitting on the porch at my grandma's house. And I probably was a year, maybe 2, maybe just over a year old or 2 years old or something like that. And And it's not, it's one of those funny things that you're never quite sure as if the memory is because you saw the picture or because you actually have the memory. And I know that babies are often thought of as, you don't really remember stuff from when you were little. But I think you do. I think there are things that you do remember. Things like Christmas and all. Even though we're a few months away from Christmas, Christmas is never far away. I love Christmas. Always have. And whether anyone comes over or not, I decorate because it's Christmas. I have plans this year for my friends for gifts for Christmas, which I'm in the process of starting to plan out to make, which I think could be fun. And at the moment, I'm working on smaller projects of things, like these little flowers, because they're pretty. You instantly see, you get some fairly instant gratification because it doesn't take that long to make one. But I've been going through my house, and it's not Swedish death clearing or anything like that, but just trying to pare down and remove the things that just, I will never really do the Marie Kondo thing. I don't think that that's really kind of my thing. Oops, I'll do that again. But I am getting rid of a lot of things that just have no place in my life anymore. And trying to move on with things that do have a place. Ooh, there we go. That'll do. And as teaching was such a big portion of my life, it isn't so much anymore. I always feel like the new year really begins in September. And yes, I was one of those teachers who did lots of planning over the summer. Did a review for myself of what I'd done the year before, what worked, what didn't work, where I wanted to go from there. And started looking at how this year would be shaped. Well, I'm continuing to do that a bit because I still have a choir. It's a community choir, which is quite wonderful. They're a lovely bunch. There's about 100 of them, so they make a good noise. And we're doing, for the autumn term, folk songs and Christmas music. It's a very, very short term, of course, because it's only 10 weeks long before the Christmas concert. It always seems very short to me. So there are things that need to be prepared for that, and I'll be doing that. I've already programmed, so the program is done. And so now I need to prepare the Padlet so that they can access the material. They'll all have their own copies because we always buy copies for everyone. But I'll also do a teach tape for them as well. It will not be the most beautiful singing I ever do, but it's teaching materials. And I do that for them because, and a lot of them use it, not everybody, but a lot of them do. And they learn the material and they practice. And one of our members, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, used to download all of the material. And when he'd go off for his morning walk or his morning run or whatever, he'd listen. So he'd learn it that way. It's an awesome responsibility leading a group of people in anything, whether you're a CEO of a company or whether you're working with 5-year-olds, which is a really heavy-duty thing. I only taught down to 5s en masse. I did a little, occasionally did a sort of a mommy and me music course for babies. That really was not my kind of thing, though. I was not terribly happy doing that. It's just not my my thing. But I loved my classroom teaching. The last few years that I taught, I was working in a little school that only had years up to year 3. And they were a new school, so they were gradually adding each grade level. And unfortunately, and I had my own room. It was one of the very few times I had my own space. I was able to set it up just the way I wanted it. And I had a real opportunity to make the Orf Kodai curriculum I was developing and using at the time, really to see it through and make it work. And I think of all of there aren't a lot of regrets I have in this life, but I am really sorry I had to give that up. I really enjoyed going into that school. And I enjoyed the teachers. I loved the kids. And the space was really working for me. And they were doing so well. But life has a way of changing things for all of us. And so when my husband's illness became, when he was in the final stages of that illness, we gave up all our work. Choirs, schools, everything. And it just had to be like that. But there you go. Doesn't mean that the work that you did wasn't valuable and wasn't appreciated and won't be remembered by the students that you had. It just meant that I didn't get to follow through on it in quite the way I really wanted to. I loved that school. Actually, I loved teaching. It was always a strong part of who I was and what I did. When I started teaching, I was just out of university, obviously, and found a little job in a place, in a farming community, about an hour or so the other side of Rockford, Illinois. It was just far enough away so I could start living an independent life from my parents and family and could start to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. and I was teaching K through 12. And it was kind of a weird little town or school district, because there were 3 schools, and I worked in all 3, and they were all on kind of the same site, but you kind of had to drive to one of them, but you could walk to the other. Anyway, so they had K through 4 in one building, and then 5 and 6 in another building. And there was always more than one year group intake. And then the main building was the middle school and high school. And I remember my parents driving me down for the interview, because although I was taking driving lessons at the time, I still hadn't quite passed my driver's test. So, and I didn't have a car of my own yet, but that I would have finished that in before the school year started, so that would have been fine. So we all packed up into the car. My parents drove me down, and we get to this town where the interview would be, and we were early, and so went into town and had lunch at the local cafe. The town at that time had a general store, a cafe, and a post office. That was it. And of course, we were all dressed up because I was going in for an interview and a meeting, blah, blah. So I remember passing some kids on the street, and as we went by, they just sort of muttered under their breath, "Slickers." Because obviously it was a small place, and very easy to tell if somebody was not from there, or was just visiting or passing through or whatever. So I did my interview and got the job, which was fine. And then the town was very, very small, but about, not quite 10 miles, but a few miles outside of this place was a slightly bigger town. And so we started looking for, went to a couple of realtors and started looking for flats to rent. I can't remember if we did that on the day or went back and looked. Gosh, might have been on the day. But I remember we found a flat that was 1 bedroom. It was just a downstairs. I don't know if there was an upstairs to that house. And it was a duplex. It backed onto the parking lot of the Catholic Church, which was next door. See how much prettier that is? That is just so much prettier and pops so much better than just the plain ones. Why is it there? Oh gosh, I don't do anything that isn't labor intensive. So I did move into there. There was no furniture whatsoever. But as my mother was working for as a decorator and secretary, and basically did lots of things in a furniture store, we bought some furniture, basics. It did have a table and chairs in the kitchen, so I didn't need to buy that. But basically bed and sofa and a chair and some shelving. I had that shelving for years. It was really beautiful wood shelving. which was really easy to put up, and it was pretty. And you could kind of change, it was 2 shelves, but you could sort of change the height of both of them because they were intermixed. And a couch, which was really comfy. And I didn't have a telly, but I did have a really good radio at the time. Can you imagine not having a telly? And of course, there were no, didn't have a mobile phone or any of that kind of thing. That wasn't really on the cards, but learned to set up a household. I wasn't terribly good at it, but there were a lot of things that I wish I had been taught. Before living on my own. But you get them eventually. You don't screw up too badly. And so I set up to teach that first year. I was really glad to have a K through 12 job because I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to specialize, if I wanted to specialize, and whether teaching was actually going to be for me or not. So I figured it would give me a good overview of the profession and my place in it. And then I started to learn very early on how music teachers were seen in schools and the support they were given or not given, depending. Oops. That's all right. And met the band director, and he was lovely. And the band room was nice, and that was centered in the middle school, high school, had a proper band room. And I think he was supportive, or more or less supportive, I guess. And then I was shown where my desk was. Well, I didn't have a room. I had the desk in the back of a math room, which is where all of the choral music was kept, as well as in the back of this math room, which was a classroom, which had teaching going on in it. So I had to share. Basically, I was just sort of a squatter in the back, I guess. There was a piano in the back so that I could practice some things when I needed to. But I certainly couldn't use the room when classes were going on. I needed to go other places. But I had quite a full schedule as well. And I would... So when I had high school choir, I can't remember where, if I had it in that room or if I had it in the band room or somewhere else. God, it's funny how your mind goes kind of weird. Anyway, the lower school, the K through 4, was just down away from the school. It was on the same site, and it was one of those jobs where you pushed the piano from door to door. I had no space in there either. There were some instruments that were in the side part of the kindergarten space. But I had no space of my own. And basically, teachers would either leave when I pushed the piano into their rooms to do the music classes for their group, or they would just sit in the back and do other work while I did my lesson. And that was kind of weird, but, I didn't know that there was another way. And I had been in schools when I did my student teaching. I did do the push the piano from door to door for the primary aspect of it. But I remember I commandeered the wall outside of the lunchroom in the lower school. And then I just filled it with rhythm patterns and sight singing patterns and song lyrics that we were working on. So as the kids lined up for lunch, they'd pass by this and things might osmose in. I also put some things down the halls on corners of the walls to reinforce some of the concepts I was trying to teach them. The year 5 and 6, I remember being in their kind of gym space. They had a sort of an open area. I don't remember going door to door there. But then again, so much of it I don't remember. It's been such a long time. I just remember traveling a lot and walking between spaces and moving furniture. And, one of the things they don't tell you, one of the many things they don't tell you in student teaching, is how much furniture you're going to move. How you're going to reevaluate constantly what you teach, how you teach it, and the varying support you'll get from whoever your principal or headmaster or whoever is going to be. And why on earth they don't give you a sacrificial box of Kleenex when you graduate? Hell, they should be giving you a subscription. Because the other two things they don't tell you is how much you're going to cry that first year. And I will bet male teachers do as well. It's not just women teachers that cry. And how sick you're going to be that first year. Because kids love to share. I didn't realize at the time that you could get chickenpox more than once. But I did. And that was thanks to an outbreak at the school. I learned a lot that first year. I cried a lot that first year. I laughed a lot. And I made some good friends that year. And I left after a year, not because I didn't like the place, but a better job came up at my old grade school, where I'd gone from years 4 to year 8. It was a little closer to home, or a little closer to a bigger city. And so I applied and got it. But that's a story for another day. Time to get on with the universe here. So from my universe to yours, enjoy your day. And that's it.